Erin, that was
Yes.
very interesting what you did with the multi-tone test with the NAD.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. Nobody's doing that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason for it. Like
Oh,
I'm like, is there a reason why nobody's doing that? Not like a conspiracy theory. Like, is this the right thing to do? But it makes sense to me, so I'm gonna keep doing it until somebody smarter than me tells me why I can't do it.
I make mistakes all the time, and the problem is if you make a video, it's a public mistake.
Yes.
You know, whereas most of the time, everybody's making a mistake, but it's private. Like for
Right.
example, when I was testing this Arc Studio, I'm like, dude, I emailed them like the response is weird on the measurement. After it does the correction,
Yeah.
turns out my audio interface, like this particular Motu M2, had a calibration profile in REW for the interface that was like making it measure in a weird way. Like, a calibration. Normally you have a mic calibration.
Yeah.
It had a calibration profile for the sound card. So I had to email them back. Ignore what I said. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So, but I thought that was cool though. How would you explain that in a simple term, like with a multi-tone versus single tone, like simple stuff?
Yeah. So the reason I did is because that Weem audio amp or Weem amp that everybody was using, like there was a lot of people that said that it didn't sound like it got loud enough. And then when I was listening to it, I was like, yeah, definitely. Like I understand what people are saying. So I was thinking, normally when we test the power output, we just test it like one tone, like a 1 kilohertz tone. And we say, okay, it goes up to this distortion spec, maybe 1% THD or something like that. Right. But then I thought, I'm going to test it at low volume with just the 1 kilohertz tone. And then at that same input voltage, so whatever voltage I need to feed it to make 1 watt or 2 watts, I'm going to apply a multi-tone signal. So a multi-tone signal is like 32 bands of a tone across the entire audio spectrum, like 16 hertz to 20 something kilohertz or something like that. Anyway, so I thought, yeah, I'll do a 1-to-1. So I'll test it 1 watt, 1 tone, and then 1 watt multi-tone. And then I'm going to ramp it up to spec with 1 kilohertz. It's supposed to do 100 watts. Okay, I'm going to make sure it does that. It does. Now what happens when I apply a multi-tone signal to it? Same input voltage, but just a multi-tone signal. And the idea is that it should theoretically make the same power. And for the Weem amp, I found that it lost about 33 watts between the 1 kilohertz tone and the multi-tone. But with the NAD, it lost like 2 watts. So to me, that's kind of negligible.
So
yeah, but I think that might be an interesting way to see, when you're saturating that power supply with a lot of content, a lot of music content, what's it doing? Is it able to keep up, or is it actually dropping in overall level?
That's interesting because, well, a lot of people are focused on, the Synad scores, different, things like that. Whereas the power output, when you're playing all kinds of content through it, that's more important to me personally.
Yeah.
That's something that I'd be more concerned about because, here, this is related to our friend at Derek, right? Big D Wiz. He always changes his name. Williston Audio Labs. It is right now. Yeah, it's always changing.
Derek, he's a good dude.
I went back and saw an old video of him where he's testing an amplifier and it's not hitting the rated spec. It was like, rated at 200 and maybe it was hitting, 130.
Yeah.
But at the end, he's like, look, just for fun, let's throw it the 10K test, 10 kilohertz test tone. Right.
Yeah.
And then let's see how at 10 kilohertz, that thing was at like 400 watts. So there's a difference. 10 kilohertz, single tone, 400 watts, other tone, 130. Yeah. And it kind of made me think about what's important in an amplifier. Would you be able to possibly kind of do the same thing, but run M noise or pink noise? Would that be a similar test?
Yeah, I mean, the multi-tone is kind of like that. I guess they have probably different crest factors, like how much range there is for them and stuff like that. But that's the only tones that I have access to with the hardware and software combo that I'm using right now. Is single tone or multi-tone. I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't inject my own signal into it. It's kind of a closed loop system,
Yeah, that's too bad. Because I would be curious to see what it would do with pink noise. or M noise, which is basically it's kind of like pink noise, but it has like some weird like sparkly things that are it's meant to emulate the sound of like or the power of music. Power of music.
Power of music.
The power.
That's a good
But that's
Celine
an
Dion song.
interesting test to hear how much power the amplifier is actually putting out with content,
Right.
like music.
Yeah, I mean, personally, like 1 kilohertz tone, like I'm never listening to just a 1 kilohertz tone. I want to know what it's doing.
I don't want to know. I don't care how loud it can get at 1 kilohertz. I want to know how it can play all the frequencies.
Yeah, I want to know if that power supply can keep up. You know.
So you saturate it. You saturate.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea. It's still not perfect. What I really wish I had was something like an audio precision, so I could feed it a lot of input voltage to feed the analyzer the input voltage that I need. You know, because I got a 500 something watt amp here, and I try to do it with that, and it wasn't having it. The analyzer that I use was like, nah, bro, I can't do that. It was just shutting itself down.
I can't do that, bro.
It was like, nah, man, you got the wrong guy. I think it's maxed out at like 47 volts or something like that, where I needed more than that at the resistance that I was testing at.
Yeah, Crowson says he doesn't listen. He only listens at 2.83 volts.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
In mono
with a subwoofer.
Life in mono.
All right. If you would like to join us every week on Mondays at what time is it? About 6 p.m. Central, which is the best time. That's where I am. Make sure you join us at youtube.com/Daily HiFi. We out.